So that 50,000 is easily worth it.
Dude, I would pay him 100,000 at this point if I had to. Like,
what's good, word? I got my guy Beni Fwelo on the podcast today, and what I'm super excited about today, guys, is this guy right here is somebody who literally was a regular guy working in sales and then went from 0 to $24 million in commercial multifamily real estate. And I was just like, yo, you know, I'm always trying to provide value on the show, bring people on the show, and who better not to do that someone this. So make sure we're going to drop the gem so you guys can get all the information. Welcome to the show, Beni.
Man, my man, Tony, thank you, man. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor, man. You have a nice and beautiful establishment here, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
It's beautiful, man. It's great to see, man. I'm excited, man. Let's do it.
Right. So before we get to the backstory, right? Like where did you start at? Because you, of course, you like, well, that's the backstory, but like, where are you right now? What's your goals?
Like, you asking where I am right now?
In real estate, yeah.
So like right now I have about 150 doors, multifamily.
Right.
Which is, you know, valued at $24.1 million. And I also have the residential side of real estate actually that I've been doing for the most part. Actually, I've been doing real estate for 6 years. Yeah. Which 4 of it has been residential focused, and then over the last 2 years, really 1 year, I would say I started aggressively buying multifamily. So where I am right now is that I still have my residential operation and I have the multifamily that I'm scaling right now. And I'm looking forward to acquiring more properties.
And how old are you?
Just turned 30.
Dang. So like literally, and one thing with Beni, y'all too, there's no cap in his rap. And he talks about that all the time, right? Like he'll post the papers and all of that. So that's another reason why I wanted to bring someone on the show who actually is doing what they teach, right? Because when I see a number like that, I look at it and I'm just like, how do you even get there, right? Because there's like this underlying thing of like, you know, just not being educated in real estate. And it's like, how do I get there? And then some people think too that you have to have millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to even get your foot in the store and in the door. And I know you started with like wholesaling, right?
Yes. So like a lot of people think that you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to get into real estate. But I mean, that's true to a certain extent, right? Because if you have a lot of money, you can just get into the business right away. You can start buying properties and it would be awesome. Or you can start small. In my case, I started as a wholesaler.
Gotcha.
Right? So the beautiful thing about wholesaling is that you're not required to have a lot of money. Like for me, for example, in 2018, I mean, I just had been laid off from a job. So I really didn't have money.
What job was that?
That was my sales job at Concast.
Okay.
Right? So that's my last job I was working as a sales rep at Concast. So I had gotten laid off from that job. So I really didn't have a lot of money. But what I did is I invested into real estate through the wholesale strategy. So all it took me was to pay $50 for deal machine, maybe another $100 for some other apps. Just make sure that you have a working computer and a working cell phone, and maybe spend another $200 or $300 for my dialer and a list of sellers. So roughly for around $500, I was able to get started in the business. And then I invested $500 for another 2 months, or for a total of 3 months, and $1,500 later, I closed my first deal and made $50,000.
That's crazy.
So that was a $1,500 investment that made me $50,000.
Dang.
So, and then of course, after that, I wanted to scale, and then I paid a mentor and never looked back, you know?
And then the thing about that too, that I also want to break down as well, is it's just like, you guys, what you hear that he did was, he's not saying that like, you know, this is just crazy easy and then he just didn't do this without directions. He's saying like, yo, I had this idea to get into the wholesaling. I got the apps to give me the information to help me find a deal and land my deal. Yeah. And then once I landed my deal, it was like, oh, this actually is something. Yeah, and then that's where he started going, proof of concept. That's crazy. So let's go back to that Concast job, right? Because what I want to talk to people about is transformation, and then people believing that they can do the same things as you can as well. So there's someone else who's working at a Comcast, or they're working somewhere. So when you were in this mind at Comcast, you probably weren't even thinking of wholesaling, right?
No, I was actually not thinking of real estate at all. You know, it's funny because my manager at Comcast actually was flipping a house in Decatur, right? He was in the middle of a flip, but he was still not attractive to me. Like, I was just like, yeah, that's the guy, you know, he's flipping a house. I was not thinking of getting into real estate at that time. I was actually thinking of becoming an executive at Comcast one day and that kind of stuff. I really wanted to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah. So you were in Comcast corporate.
Yes, I was directly working at Comcast corporate. I'm sorry.
In the Battery?
No, not at the Battery. Actually, we were ready to get moved to the Battery. So I actually left Comcast when they were building the Battery office.
Yeah.
But I was at the Roswell office.
Got you. Okay.
So, and then also, so it was a mixture of being at the office and also being on the field. So
okay.
Yeah. So my goal really was to, climb the corporate ladder.
Got you.
And but it just didn't happen because I got laid off.
Dang. What did you get laid off for?
I mean, look, they just changed their marketing strategy. It was crazy because they emailed us on a Monday, right? They emailed us on a Monday, and then on Wednesday, we're out. Like 2-day notice. It's crazy.
And then so you're trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Yes.
And then you get laid off. So you're probably like, what's going on? Because at that moment, just like so many other Americans and just people, all your eggs are in this basket at Comcast, right?
Oh yes. It was a great job. I mean, it was the first job I ever had at the time that was paying me, close to 6 figures,
Man.
So, I mean, I was really depending a lot on the job to take care of my family. And then a month before I got laid off, my daughter was born. So I had a newborn at the time. And, I already had my son that was, born the year before. And then my daughter that was born a month before I got laid off. So, I mean, I just had to figure it out. It was pretty tough.
Dang. So where I want to go with this too, because a lot of people do watch this podcast that, love this podcast for not having celebrities, but have real people that have like taken real situations and made change for themselves, right? Yeah. So father, that's what you are, 2 kids, working at Comcast, and then making 6 figures. What is it like when you get laid off? Because and let me show you the context of where I'm trying to go with this. Me as an entrepreneur, right? You got the corporate side, you got the entrepreneur side, and I love talking about both of them. So a lot of times with people who are used to working in the corporate side, they don't really know how to hunt and find their own money. So then when they get laid off, it's this situation of like, what do I do? So where were you? What was your mindset at?
So the good thing is I've always been an entrepreneur, right?
Okay.
So I've actually had businesses before going to work for Comcast. Those businesses have just failed. Like I was in a trash business. I was in some kind of consulting business. I mean, I was just figuring it out. Like I've always been an entrepreneur. Like essentially throughout high school and even college and all that stuff. But all my businesses were just failing.
Right.
So that's why I got into Comcast, because when my son was born, I just had to take care of my family. Like my back was against the wall. And I was just like, look, I'm a father now. I got to take care of my family. I had to make a decision where it's like, look, I have all these failing businesses. So now I got to go get stable income, right?
Yeah.
So I got into Comcast at the time. And honestly, when I was working at Comcast, that kind of took away my entrepreneurship spirit, because I was not looking forward to getting back to the hustle anymore. I was like, I'm getting money, it's stable, and I'm safe here, right? I can take care of my family. Rent is being paid on time. Everything is fine, right?
Right.
And at the time I got laid off, I was pissed off because I felt like I let myself down, because I was like, look, for one time in my life, I gave my time to this company. Right. And look at what they did to me. And then, to be honest, I was not an average
you were high level.
Like I was high level at Comcast. I was not an average employee at Comcast, right? I think I was like top 5 in the South, right? Like as far as sales rep, I had all the accolades and all the stuff, right? So, but they still laid me off because I was just a number at the end of the day. Yeah. So I really got upset. I was like, look, I promised myself that I would never work for anybody else. Yeah. And I had to look at my wife literally look at her and say, look, baby, buckle up. It's going to be a rough time because I'm not going back to work for somebody. Yeah. And that's when I chose, the real estate route, Wow. And it's been 6 years now. I never worked for anybody else.
Man, that's amazing too. And like one thing that I also want to touch on as well is like, talking about transformation, right? What were some of those businesses? Okay, when you said you had those businesses, right, and they weren't really doing well, and you were like, let me get stable income. Was that like your first tries at entrepreneurship, and it was cool, but you weren't making enough to take care of your family, so then you had to like, let me just try to get this job?
Yeah, essentially, it's like you make a little quick, $4,000 from some side hustle or businesses you have, but that's $4,000 after 3 months of trying something. And then
what were the businesses?
I mean, I had to try, for example, I had this concept of, I don't know if you live in an apartment or what, but there is this concept of valet trash, right? So it's like essentially like you have these guys that go to these apartments and they collect the trash like 5 times a week.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I had a whole structure and a business like that, and I had a contract with this apartment complex that was paying me $9,000 to do that, right?
Yeah.
So it was pretty well, and I end up getting an offer to get bought out by this other company. But the problem is when I'm getting that offer, my contract with the apartment, was expiring and they were not renewing. So in the middle of trying to getting bought out for $150,000, which was a pretty stupid offer, but then everything just fall apart. So that was one. So it's like, damn.
But that business was actually kind of rising, right?
It was kind of rising.
Yeah.
I had a lot of expenses, honestly, because I also took on debt for that business. So I had a lot of expenses. So I'm netting something enough to pay rent or whatnot, but it's just not really making it. I was not able to scale, get other clients. It was really tough.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the industry. So I had to kind of like just let it go, right?
Yeah.
And then I also got into another business where I was helping international students come to the US for college.
Okay.
So, which was a pretty good business for me because I'm from the Congo.
Yeah.
I speak French. I got this international imprint. I kind of can touch on other people either in Africa and Europe. So it's pretty interesting to help people from Europe or Asia and Africa come to the US. It's a pretty cool business, but the problem is, like, it was, I got burnt out.
Yeah.
Like you have these people paying you, let's say $5,000 to consult them on how they can come here. But then when they get here, now you essentially working for them. You got to find them an apartment. Like, it's just like the money was not just making sense, right? For my time, I was gone a lot and it was not making enough. Yeah. And it was hard to acquire clients as well because we talking about getting people from one country to the next country. Like I would get like one client every maybe 3-6 months, Yeah. So, and I had to let that one go as well. So I had a lot of businesses like that, right? So, and then I just had to get stable income because especially when my son was born.
That changes everything.
Yeah. Like that, I had to make it, like a clear decision.
Did insurance play any part of this? Like, because I know a lot of people want to go corporate for just the benefits, or was it just literally the money?
For me, it was just the money. I wasn't even thinking about insurance or all that stuff. It was just like, look, if I can make myself, I don't know, $5,000 a month stably, like I want to make it consistently. I'd be like, I'd be happy with that,
Yeah, that makes sense. So also going back to like those businesses as well, like when you first started, and you said, you had took on debt and then it didn't really go well. Is that why you had told me you're like, I don't like to start a business with debt?
Yeah, I really don't.
Is that kind of where that came from, like that experience?
Yes, because I mean, when a business fell, right? Because most businesses fail, as you know, right? And when your business fails and you have debt, it's just terrible, Yeah. It's just terrible. So I've kind of made a decision to never take on debt to start a new business.
Got you.
I'd rather start the business with either my own, cash or a partner's cash, right? And operate the business, make it profitable. Now I build the leverage to go take on debt, which is going to be good debt and cheaper money, So that's what I'd rather do than just
So what advice would you give to somebody who doesn't have the capital to start the business? Would you say go find a good partner first versus taking the bank's debt?
Yes, I would say try to raise private money first. Try to find a partner that may look. A lot of times people may have good credit, right?
Yeah,
but you may need a cash partner to do business with. So you guys can combine your good credit and cash.
Yeah,
and operate the business, build the leverage, and then you use your good credit now to access the bank's money.
Got you.
That's just my philosophy. I know a lot of people don't agree with it. They just want to get the credit cards and build.
I mean, it makes sense though. You go into the business. One, you slow down the debt repayment because it's your partner, right? And then two, yes, let's tear down the objective belief. You're probably going into it. He may own a little bit more than you. You may have the idea because he has the money involved. You know what I'm saying? Yes. But you're not focused on just repayment. You could actually focus on building the business up.
And scaling it and making it profitable,
Exactly. So let's talk about this as well, because with somebody who has as much real estate as you do, commercial, residential, let's talk about what is good debt versus bad debt.
Okay. I think good debt is like debt on an asset, right? A debt that can pay for itself. Right? Like, for example, you'll be surprised. Do you know, like, your mortgage for the property that you're living in is not even good debt? Now, some banks may consider it as good debt, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not good debt because you have to pay out of pocket from your income, your earned income. You got to pay for it, right? But like a mortgage on the other side for an investment property is good debt because you are not paying for it.
Right.
It's paying for itself. A car loan is not good debt unless the car is paying for itself. So good debt and bad debt, look, there may be a much more technical definition of it. I'm just giving the simple one. Good debt would be a debt that's paying for itself, ideally a debt on an asset.
Yeah.
And bad debt will be like credit card debts.
Got you.
People get credit card, they go buy some clothes with their credit cards. And now they got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Now, let me just give you something though. You can turn what's known as bad debt into good debt as well, because I just mentioned credit cards. You could use credit card to invest into something, right? That's like an asset, into real estate or whatever,
right?
And then use that real estate to pay off that credit card. So on paper, it may look as bad debt, but there is an asset behind the debt that's taking care of it. So you're just gonna have to kind of like be kind of financially literate to kind of know how to mess with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, And what I'm hearing too, which was that was actually perfect, right? Yes. The reason why I'm saying that is because we try to categorize good debt and bad debt by like saying our home is good debt and this is good debt and that's bad debt, right? But what you just said is what I heard in the simplest terms is bad debt is debt that you're initially or overall the whole time paying out of your own earned money.
Yes. Good debt.
That's good debt. And that's bad debt. That's bad debt. And good debt is when it's like, I'm going to take on debt, but I never actually pay for it because the asset is paying for that.
Correct. Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
Yes, correct. And then the best kind of debt you can ever take is real estate debt.
Yeah, because it's always appreciating.
Because, you got the tax benefits, you got the appreciation, and of course you got the the loan payoff. Yeah. If you have an investment property, which in that case can be a tenant that's paying for you. So, literally you take the bank's money and you don't have to pay for it.
Got you.
So that's, it doesn't get any
better than that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So from what I heard too, from an entrepreneurial ear, is when you were doing these first businesses, while you was like before Comcast and stuff, the issue is, and the reason I want to speak about this, because it's so important that everybody on here listening hears this, is we build businesses that aren't scalable. Yes. And then we're like, oh, this is my baby. And then we work in this business. And then the next thing you know, we're burnt out. Yeah. We can't really make more because of the capacity, right? So then skipping over Comcast, because we talked about that, after you got laid off, when you got into wholesaling, right? Because I look at it as stages, wholesaling, then to the level of real estate you're at now. Yeah. You probably first got a taste of like, I could scale this because I don't have to be on the ground doing every single piece of the work. So let's talk about what that felt like when you first was like, this is scalable. Yeah. So, it was a lot of trial and error as well. So again, I'm just going to kind of put the whole timeline, right? So in 2018, I get into wholesaling. So my first year of wholesaling was 2018. I may have made probably just barely touched six figures because I got lazy after I closed my first two deals. I thought I was rich after having about $60,000 in the bank, right? Yeah. But then the following year, 2019, that's when I wanted to start building a team because I realized that I'm going to need more people. I'm going to need to either duplicate myself or delegate, right? And I built a team, but it was not sustainable because I didn't understand the principle of being a leader and what does it really take to operate a business, especially when you involve a lot of people. And I think at that time I had about 6 people around me, but then it just all crashed because I didn't know how to operate a team at the time. So I had to scale back and really take the time to learn how to be an effective leader, right? That's very important. That's very important. And then, but as also I had to figure out what am I really good at and what are my weaknesses. Right. And then as I uncovered my weaknesses, I realized that I needed a partner. So I got on a journey to finding partnerships. Right. So I had my first partner. We built a successful wholesaling business that led us to going through COVID 2020. Yeah. And then when the partnership ended, I got into my second partnership, which was very much more successful. That's when we got into the multi-7 figures with the wholesaling business. That's when also through that partnership where I finally mastered what it is to be a good leader, what it is to be, team, like a better team builder. Yeah. Like all that stuff. Through that partnership, I mastered all the stuff. And then I felt that I was ready now to go on my own and operate my own team. So it took me 2 years of going through partnerships plus another year of actually failing to run a team. Yeah. So a total of 3 years, right? For me to be able to finally be on my own and run my own operation. Right? Wow.
So look, to some people it happens much faster, but I just took the time that I needed so I can effectively scale and it can be sustainable.
Wow. So anybody who's interested in business, please keep watching this podcast because I have so many questions, right? That could just transfer to anybody who's watching this podcast right now, right? So one thing that I heard, which was very important, because I feel like I've recently just did this and coming out of it to where you feel like you started your business and your business is going well, and then you hit that collapse.
Yes.
Not that you're out of business, but you start noticing that like a shift has happened. Maybe my team's not here anymore for some reason. And then you start thinking leadership has to change. And that's what you talked about. So what were the things that you were doing first when that first wholesaling business, in a sense, collapsed? And then what did you do to change that to keep the wholesaling business viable?
I think the biggest thing would be I was not educating myself enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was one of those leaders that just assumed that I knew it all. And I would just tell people to do stuff and then without doing enough research. And I always felt that I didn't need a mentor because I mean, it was like an ego issue too for me. Like I had all these people under me. So I'm the guy, right? So that's one, I'm the man. I mean, I don't need, any sort of like further education. So I would advise any CEO or any leader to always educate yourself. Like stay on top of the industry that you're in and make sure that you always know what's going on. So that's one, I was not really doing it. And number two, instead of delegating tasks, I was trying to duplicate myself a lot. So essentially, just to put it in context for real estate, right? For wholesaling. So let's say I was the one driving for dollars because at the time I was really operating at a very small scale. We were driving around town.
What is driving for dollars?
Driving for dollars is essentially driving around town to find like vacant properties or beat up properties, and you load it up in an app. And it will compile all the data and it will reach out to the sellers, right? So I used to really I started my wholesale journey just driving for dollars. I was physically getting out the house to go find deals. So what I did was I tried to find more people to do the same thing I was doing, right? So I was not thinking of my business at scale, right? Like I was thinking of my business at the level we at right now. How do we just do a lot of this instead of thinking, okay, the real question I had to ask myself at the time was, if I want to scale this business, what are some of the tasks that I need to delegate to people so we can grow beyond what we're doing right now? So I just had a whole lot of people driving for dollars. Yeah. So all of us were doing the same thing. And we're not going anywhere because we all looking at each other like we all drive, dollar drivers. I don't know what the term is. Yeah. So it was not really taking us anywhere, right? So we were kind of stuck there, right? Because it was not inspiring. Nobody saw themselves as reaching the next level because that's all
everybody's hitting burnout.
Everybody's getting burned out. And it was just so it clearly again, I didn't have the education because when I end up getting the education, that's when I learned all the other positions that I needed to have in my business and put people in position to thrive. Yeah. Right. I just thought I knew what I was doing because it was what I was doing and it worked for me. I closed a couple of deals. So all of us do the same thing. So we can all close deals. Just a pretty terrible concept. Right. Yeah. So that's why my business crashed because when I actually traveled, I went to France in 2019 to visit my family because my family is there. So I went to France for 21 days. And when I came back, I didn't have a business anymore. Right. I didn't have a team anymore, actually. Yeah. So I still had the business. I knew what to do, but I had no team. So, and I took the time to figure out, okay, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? And then that's when I learned that, look, you need an acquisition rep. You need a disposition rep. You need a transaction team. You can keep the driving for dollars team, but that's completely separate for your actual real estate operation, right? So, and then I was like, well, if I have to do all the stuff, let me get a partner because I'm not strong at building a team this way. Yeah. So I got a partner and we tested a concept of getting acquisition reps, dispo reps, and all that good stuff. So we did it for a year. It was pretty okay. We did pretty well. And then I got into my second partnership where we went even deeper into team structure and team building. And that's when we finally cracked the code.
That makes so much sense too, because so many times the small businesses, we start our businesses, that's where I'm about to go with this delegation, right? And we're not good at delegating. Like you said, we're all kind of doing the same thing. Yes. And when everybody's doing the same thing, you can't truly scale because one reason why you need to have the delegation is because if we put each person in their particular department, right? We now see which departments need more work. Yes. And then we can start scaling that particular department, and then that's how we get the overall scale, and the business starts working in synchrony.
Yes.
And that's what makes more sense for taking the business longevity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you actually said it way better than that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why I said, like, there's so much business game that I'm just hearing in here with processes or whatever.
Yes.
So now let's just break down like some numbers, right? How much does it cost to operate your wholesale business when everybody was driving for dollars versus to now when it's operating at its prime?
So when everybody was driving for dollars, I mean, I just said it, the higher tier of the app, right? That they were using at the time. So I think at the time it was probably $500 to have about 30 people drive for dollars for me at the time. So I had $500 for the app. And then maybe, if I remember, because it's been a few years, maybe another like $1,000 to kind of support some people with gas money, that kind of stuff.
And they were working off commission?
They were all working off commission, no base salary.
So that's why they all quit when you came back home.
Exactly, because I mean, another thing too, I started offering salaries eventually because I realized that you're gonna have to pay for people's time.
Yes.
Know? So yeah, it was pretty like very, pretty cheap operation. I just paid $500 for the app.
Yeah.
And maybe another $1,000 to give them gas money.
Got you.
And then whenever we close a deal, that's when, I will make the money and then spend the most to pay out commissions.
So at that collapse of phase one of your wholesaling business, were you still in it and you were just like, I got to grind, I got to get this back going? Or did you just start thinking very much smarter?
I mean, I'll definitely start thinking smarter.
Yeah.
That was definitely the first lesson for me to start looking into what I was, again, what are my weaknesses, And then that's when I reached out to one of my friends that was interested in real estate at the time, or probably had one deal that he was working in. And I realized that it was also hungry, young, and fresh. I was like, okay, that could be a good partner that we can work together and turn it up, And which we did. So we went through our own experiences as well. And we did okay. And I think it was a great learning lesson because even through that partnership, I also uncovered other, like weaknesses that I had, which was very much related to putting people in the right positions and really like team building effort that I was making. And then got into my third partnerships. That's really when we cracked the code because my partner at the time actually paid a mentor in Texas that was running a very successful wholesaling business. Like everything was in place. Yeah. So he essentially brought the game to me, and then I looked at it. I was like, dude, like, yeah, this is exactly what we gotta do. You know what I'm saying? And we implemented it, and that was it. You know?
And what was the different about that game? Was it just every single area of the?
I think the way it was broken down was like we just had to accept the fact that, bro, we're gonna have to take risk. We need to pay salaries. We need to put everybody in position. We need to have departments for our business. And we need to make heavy investment into buying data, because again, like the wholesaling really is a numbers game. Yeah, the more people you talk to, the more the likelihood of you closing a lot more deals.
So there's people in your business that just talk to people.
Yeah, I have people in business that just talk to people all day. People that just send a bunch of SMS all day. People that like just make offers all day. Like,
do you spend a lot of money at SMS? Because I know from an e-commerce background, like SMS is expensive.
Yeah, I spend a lot of money. Well, I mean, grand scheme of thing, not really.
Yeah, because you're not sending pictures and stuff in it.
No, I'm not. Yeah, but I mean, in not really. If you
compared to how much you're making,
how much we're making, not really. But if you look at just a monthly budget, what it represents, yes, it's a good chunk of our monthly budget.
And then help me understand this too, just from seeing wholesale, right? We had a guest, Aria, on here who does wholesale. Shout out to Aria, that's my boy. Shout out to Aria. So he pretty much just said all you need is a lead, right? Yes. How much messaging and back and forth does it take to actually get a lead for somebody to say, I'm going to sell my house? You know what I'm saying? Because the traditional way we think is I'm going to put a for sale sign out, get a realtor, sell the house. Can you just break down that difference of like the types of people that you're finding that are usually going to work with a wholesaler versus just selling a house through a realtor? Break that down for me.
So like the difference, first of all, just a quick difference between going the wholesale route and the realtor route would be the seller, most sellers or homeowners, they're traditional people, thinkers, right? They think that if I have to sell my house, I have to reach out to a real estate agent, and then they're gonna have to put a sign in front of my yard, and get that foot traffic. A lot of people see my house, take the nice pictures and all that good stuff. So a lot of them don't even know that they can actually sell their house by themselves. Yeah. Right. So that's one. So the difference now is that just to make sure I understand your question correctly. So you want to know how many times I need to
I kind of said two things, but really what I want to understand is if I'm in a situation where maybe grandmother, parent, passed, whatever it is, right? And I have this home or distressed property, right? I don't even live in the same situation. So perfect scenario. My dad, once my grandmother passed away, that house was in Tuskegee. He lives in Tennessee. He was like, I now own this house, but I don't really want to manage this house. How do you find people like him versus him saying, I need to get a realtor to sell this house so I can offload it?
What really happened? I mean, that's a great question. So what really happens is that all real estate are on public records.
Yeah.
Right? So anything that happens with a piece of property is recorded in the county records and all the stuff. So
that's why you need the data.
So that's why you need the data. So when somebody passes away and you go through a probate process to kind of take over the property, that process is being recorded in the county records. So a wholesaler like me I have access to the data. So I'm aware that there was somebody that passed away, and I'm aware that the title of the property has been transferred to somebody that lives out of town and that may not care about the
property.
And
you can see if they actually don't even live where the property is?
I can see if they're absentee. Wow. I can see that they're out of town. You just compare mailing addresses and property addresses. So there are a lot of data points that you can look at, and you kind of make a decision on how you kind of follow those leads,
Gotcha.
And then you can send them SMS or call them, send them mail. It's many ways, you can reach out to them.
Got you. And it's kind of like in the course world, like nurture sequences, like you're emailing people all the time. It's really about that message hitting at the right time to where that emotional tug hits and they're like, yes, I need you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And then I always tell people, like, real estate is, especially when you're talking about residential real estate, it's not really about houses and stuff like that. It's about people.
Yeah.
I think, like, I believe real estate is a situational business. Like, you can talk to somebody January 1st and they tell you that they don't want to sell a house.
Yeah.
But then something happens to them in March and now they want to sell a house.
Yeah.
So, but if you were behind the piece of property, you may actually miss that lead. But if you're behind the person and kind of watches their situation, you realize that as soon as the situation changed, they may be in financial distress at some point, and they may need your services to get rid of that property,
Gotcha.
So we focus on the data to just see the data points and the data changes. Like one of my favorite pieces of data is really looking after absentee owners. Absentee owners are essentially people, like you explained, your dad, for example, that has a property, but they live out of town or they live in another piece of property. So they may not really care much about that additional piece of real estate that they have, unless they're a savvy investor or savvy landlord that really care. But most of them really, it's just too much to take care of, especially when they're out of town.
Because the main thing he said, he was like, I'm not about to be going back and forth every month to take care of this.
People don't want to be landlords.
Right.
Most people don't want to be landlords, especially when they're out of town, out of state. So if they get a call from my team, it's like, hey, look, we can make you a cash offer, and then, you can.
You're done with the process.
And you're done with this whole thing. You just take the cash and take the cash and invest it in whatever you actually like to do.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for most people, so they'll just
got
you. To you.
So in this wholesaling process, when you're finding leads, are you upfront about what you're doing? Because I've also heard to where it's like Aria, when he was on the show one time, he had told me like the person selling the house didn't know they were selling to a wholesaler, and they kind of passed on the elevator but didn't know. But he was just like, I hope they don't see me in the title room because boom, boom, boom. Does that happen, or you have to do it that way?
I don't want to make it sound like you gotta lie. I think the whole thing about wholesaling is just that whether it's legal or not, right?
Right.
So legally, I can call you and tell you, hey, I want to purchase your house.
Right.
Right. The way I'm going to purchase your house is not relevant.
Right.
Right. I don't have to tell you that I'm going to use somebody else's money. Unless you ask me that kind of question, I tell you, well, we got cash partners, that kind of stuff. Right. So I'm legally reaching out to people to tell them that I'm going to be making them an offer on the property. So they agree to sell me their house. Okay. So at that point, everything is legal, correct?
Right.
So now we have a contract where I'm supposed to be the buyer and you're the seller. But then within my legal rights, I realized that, there may be people interested in the same property that may pay more for the property. So I can do two things. I can assign my rights to that contract so the cash buyer can purchase a property, or I could use the cash buyer's money to, in fact, buy your property. So I really do buy your property and just turn it around and sell it the next second. So I am performing with what I told you. So legally, I've done everything I told you.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't have to explain to people to any seller that, yes, I'm buying from you, but I'm about to sell you literally in the next room. Like,
so sometimes you actually will use like your company or your cash to get the house and just get them out the way and then resell it.
I mean, in very rare cases, I had to actually buy the property.
Yeah.
But what we do is we just use the pass-through funding method, right? Which is simply like, if you're the cash buyer,
pass-through method.
Yeah, pass-through funding. So essentially, it's like, you have the cash, you have $200,000. I have the property with the seller for $150,000, and you're gonna pay $200,000 for it. So instead of me coming out with $150,000 to buy the property and then selling it to you, we can just pass through your funds. So we just take the $200,000 and just run it through the same escrow accounts. So we use your $200,000 to close the $150 transaction, and obviously we close on the back end for $200,000. So you take the property.
Got you. So a question that I have with the whole wholesaling process is just like, is there ever like a delegation of the timing? And it seems like it always has to perfectly match up. Like, how do you manage that? Because to break it down for the listeners, right? I've got $200,000. You found a house for $150,000, and then it's like, you're like, okay, I'm going to sell it to you. So the timing is X factor over there who sold you the house. You got in a contract for $150,000, and then you finding me to buy the house for $200,000. How do you line all of that up in the perfect timing?
That's a great question. So like when we put the properties on the contract with the sellers for $150,000 in this case, right? So we have 30 days or sometimes 45 days, but 30 days is pretty typical. So we have a 30-day contract. So we have 30 days to close on the deal. So within that 30 days, we can turn around and assign that contract. So as long as the cash buyer or the end buyer is going to perform within the same time frame that I have with the seller, we're good to go.
Gotcha.
So there are a few elements. So you have the timeline to close, right? Which in this case is 30 days. Yeah. So I agree to buy your property and close within 30 days for $150,000. I may have a week of due diligence, which means this is enough time for me to inspect the property, which also during the due diligence, I can also find the cash buyer and bring them on to also inspect the property. So we can all decide if they're in or out of the deal. Yeah. Right. We can all decide within that due diligence period. Right. And then if the cash buyer is locked in, the cash buyer send the earnest money. Right. And then we're good to go. So we just hopefully close maybe the week after, or, if they need time for the whole 30 days, it's fine.
And you kind of can negotiate that with like the title company when you close.
Yes. So like,
got you.
If we need more time, we can always extend it. We can do amendments to extend contract. I mean, everything is negotiable in real estate.
Got you. Yeah, and that's a good education piece, because me being someone who just bought my first home, right? Not being completely educated in the whole process. You're just doing what they say. But with you knowing, it's just like, okay, we need a week extra. Yes. Contact this person. Boom, boom, boom. Cool.
You can all negotiate. Anything is negotiable in real estate.
Have you ever been under the gun in a sense where you like couldn't find the buyer and they're thinking like, oh, I'm about to sell my house soon?
Yes, this has happened.
What do you do in that situation?
You can either cancel the contract, which is I hate doing that. Like I want to make sure that every time I put a property on the contract, I'm going to close, right? Yeah. But again, some things are out of your control. Some buyers actually back out. You thought you had a buyer, and then the buyer, is not there anymore. So, so we just end up canceling contracts. I mean, in some cases, we had to forfeit our earnest money to sellers. Yeah. Sometimes actually we cancel and there's no earnest money, to the seller. So I mean, those happen, but.
But out of 100%, how often?
The likelihood is pretty low. Like it's
like 10%, Tom.
10% is probably too high.
5, yeah.
I would probably give it a good 5%.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because the thing is, like, I always tell people, like, it all starts with when you find a deal. Like, your acquisition gotta be tight. Like, make sure you're getting actual good deals. You need to run your numbers. We're not like blindly making offers and just get. I mean, some wholesalers actually do that. Maybe they have a much more higher ratio of, cancellation. But like, we make sure that we don't even put a deal on the contract that we're not confident to close. Yeah. So I'd rather have 5 deals on the contract that all close than the next guy that has 50 deals on the contract and only close about 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? So
that makes sense.
I'd rather just focus on good deals. Like, my acquisition staff is very picky. We don't just put anything on a contract.
Got you.
So yeah.
So then I guess too, like, one more question about just the wholesaling way. Sure. Yeah. Compared, because we're going to switch over to the big boy. So like, I know you guys been waiting on how he got to 240 million in commercial multifamily.
24 million for now.
24 million. 20, he going to get there. My bad. 24 million. My bad.
24 million.
24 million. So where in your heart with passion does the wholesaling business sit? Because like you said, you've built it to a machine to where you don't even have to like really be in it anymore. Because you went from a place of, I thought I was running it right, went on vacation, they all were gone when I got back, to now it's like it's a perfectly running smooth machine. I really don't have to be there.
Yes.
So like compared to the multifamily, is it still like a bread and butter part of your operation?
Absolutely, because wholesaling is not just wholesaling, right?
Yeah.
So it's really acquisitions.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we find deals. So we can use the wholesaling model for multifamily as well. So I think wholesaling will always be a part, like a component of my business.
Yeah.
At any scale, because I want to integrate the ability to always find our own deals within my company.
Right.
So people just call it wholesaling. I would say like a street term for it, but it's really deal finding or acquisitions.
I love that too, the word acquisition, because now really it sounds so much better.
It sounds more sophisticated, but that's really what it is.
Yeah, because I feel like wholesaling can almost sound dirty in a way. It's like, because you think about like most people think driving for dollars, all this type of stuff. But now it's like you actually have an acquisition business.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that. So when did it change from when it's like, okay, we're doing wholesaling with residential to where it's like, now it's time to get apartment complexes?
Yeah. So I've always been interested in multifamily. Like that's, it's always been something, but it's like, I just didn't know how to really get in, because the thing about multifamily is that they're not just going to let you in. Those lenders are not giving you money. Like,
that's big money too.
Yeah, that's big money. And the brokers are not just, it doesn't matter how great your credit is. It doesn't work that way. It's not like buying a single family house. So for me, I've always been interested in buying apartments, but I just didn't know how to really get in. Right. So, I actually came across, my Bolden, my mentor. I saw him at the bank. I was like, hey, dude, I see the
Bolden list. I hear about that all the time.
So I saw him at the bank. I was like, dude, like, I see what you're doing. Like, I just thought he was somebody that, because he was in Atlanta, I could actually talk to him and see him physically, so that way I can learn.
And this was a coincidental meetup.
Yeah, it was. I just saw him at the bank. I already had, I already been following him on Instagram.
Yeah.
I just didn't know him, right? So I saw him at the bank. I just went to him, cool dude. I said, dude, I see what you're doing. I'm also in real estate.
Yeah.
I want to get like you. Just, and he told me, I was like, yeah, man, you can do it. Because I'm sure a lot of people tell him that,
Yeah.
He just told me, yeah, you can do it, bro. Like, just keep grinding. What I'm saying? I was like, yeah, I appreciate it. And I think he gave me his number or his Instagram. So I'm like, I already had him on Instagram, but I DM'd him actually.
Yeah.
I DM'd him right there when I was at the bank. He responded to me, and then we kind of started talking. And then my partner, Marquise, at the time told me, hey, Bolden actually has a mentorship program. He didn't tell me about it when I saw him at the bank.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably because he didn't know like what level you were at.
He didn't know what I was really doing. We at the bank. I mean, he's probably busy. I'm busy. I had to send a wire at the time. Like, he's probably doing the same. I don't know. So, and I was like, really? Like, I met him actually last week, and he didn't mention anything. I told him I was interested, but maybe he didn't really get it. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then I actually DM'd him to say, hey, what's up? Just inquiring about, I heard you have a mentorship program. What's up? He said, yeah, email me, a couple questions that he had for me. I emailed him, and it was like, I bet. We got on the phone call. He explained to me what he was. I told him how much. He gave me the price. I was like, I bet. I wired the money right away.
He was like, oh, this guy's serious, not curious.
And then I was like, yeah, I'm serious. Like, I wired him money right away. At the time, it was $25,000. Now it's $50,000, and I'm sure the price is still going to go up. But
so I got a question about the Bolden list. But before I get there, the more you do in this complete real estate business, but jumping right back to wholesaling, the more you do it, do you just kind of build up a list of buyers, like a pool of them, to where it's like, now once I find a deal, I just kind of shoot them. The buyers are there. Cool.
So the longer you stay in the business, you're gonna close so many deals that you're gonna have so many buyers that are readily available to buy any deals you have. So it gets easier over time. Like when you get into wholesaling or even any business, I'm sure it's always hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like in the case of wholesaling, when you start at the beginning, you may close one deal or two deals over the first 30 to 60 days or maybe 90 days, depending on how hard you're working, right? And then over time, after maybe a year, because you've closed so many deals, now year two, you may just start focusing on finding deals now. You may not focus on finding buyers because you already have the buyers.
Right.
Like right now, we rarely acquire new buyers. Like, it's very rare that we have a new buyer. It's like the same players in town that we already know of. Like, sometimes there's a new player in town that just literally pops up in our emails because they're probably aware that we also have a lot of deals. So we have all these connections now. And
most of these are just all investors, right?
They're all investors or hedge funds, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
what's the difference between the regular buyer and the hedge fund?
The hedge funds are deep pocket. Like,
so do you usually send the deal straight to the hedge funds?
I mean, we used to do that, but now it's kind of like we kind of send to anybody, like just ready to buy.
Yeah.
But the hedge funds are much more deep pocket, like they're Wall Street money, right? Like they buy for different goals, right? They want to buy it and hold it. They have a return that they want to make over 7 years on their investments, and they want to pay out, dividend to their shareholders. Like it's a completely different, business model than the local buyer or the average buyer may just want to buy so they can cash flow. They may look at an asset or a single family home from the 1% perspective, which is like they want to make 1% on their investment every month so they can look pretty good on paper or for the banks, or they want to buy a property, flip it, make, maybe 25% of their investment over 3 months, 6 months. So they look at deals differently. So there are certain deals that the property may need a lot of work that a hedge fund is not going to be inclined to buy because they don't want to spend the time to rehab the property, because they want to buy turnkeys, put the tenant, and start making money for their shareholders. Whereas local buyers have the time to spend 6 months on the project so they can make $100,000 on the back end,
Yeah.
So it really depends. Although there are hedge funds also that do flips, but most hedge funds just want to buy a property, get it ready for the market right away.
Got you. So then transitioning from just talking about how like the better you get in wholesaling, you just have this buyers list, right? So transferring, going from residential to multifamily.
Yes.
We talked about the illustrious Bolden list, right?
Yes.
What is the benefits of being on this list? Are you finding or is it basically like you don't have to find the deals because like it's kind of he has the deals? Like,
so like the Bolden list, shout out to the Bolden list, shout out to my mentor Bolden. So like the Bolden list is essentially, 8 years of him, Bolden, Ed Bolden, being in the industry, right? So he's built all these relationships with brokers and maybe wholesalers and like a lot of relationships, right? So like, so we come in and he leverages these relationships to kind of put us on.
Yeah.
So for example, if I call him and say, yo, look, I got $3 million raised or whatever, I need to buy, 50 units somewhere, right? But I can't find one. He's teaching us how to find our own, deals. But you need it fast. You got to spend the money right now. He has the connection. He has that one phone call he has to make for you to get the deal really quick.
Convenience is what it brings.
Convenience, what it is. So he can make that one phone call, and then the beautiful thing is I use his experience to underwrite. So we also use his team because he's underwriting the deals for us, right? He's underwriting the deals for us, and he's making sure the deals are the kind of deal that he will buy.
Got you.
Right?
Got
so
you.
We kind of relying on him and his experience to make sure that we're not buying bad deals.
So that 50,000 is easily worth it,
dude. I would pay him 100,000 at this point if I had to. Like, dude,
so break down the underwriting. So it's like, what's the difference from me being like, oh, I'm about to do my first deal, and I just go through whatever underwriting that's being presented to me, versus like I've got Bolden underwriting.
I mean, it gives you the confidence.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you got Bolden, you got Jonathan, you got Jared. I mean, he has a whole staff, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you got people that have experience, not just in the commercial real estate space, but also they got private equity experience. They got banking experience. They got debt experience. Like they look at the deal like from all angles, right?
Also, and I heard that wrong too.
Yes.
Underwriting, basically doing their due diligence to make sure the deal is a good deal.
Yes. So you have people like that.
Yeah.
Right? People of that caliber looking at your deals.
Yeah.
Like smart people
right.
looking at your deals. So when they're handing it to you, like you're just going to have to execute.
Yeah. So,
you know
and when you think about it, like you got in the 25 and now it's $50,000, it's completely worth the $50,000 for the Bolden list entry. Absolutely. Because you may lose because if you don't, and the reason I say you could lose is because a lot of times when people are buying stuff, especially at the beginning, they're using an emotional, like, oh, I'm so hyped to get in this.
A lot of people lose money in real estate when they get in and they don't have the proper guidance. It happens all the time.
Got you. Okay.
All the time. And,
so if y'all got money, go check out the Bolden list.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, look, all I'm saying is like, if you want to invest in real estate or you want to invest in commercial real estate or, really any business.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to get a mentor. Like pay the price, pay the price. It will save you a lot of time and money.
Yeah, I love to hear that too, because in today's generation, like some people abuse it, but like people don't understand the importance of mentorship. Yes. It's like more time than money or more money than time.
Like it's crazy. You're right. Like, because as crazy as it sounds, I paid a mentor $25,000 in April of 2022. In June, I had 17 units.
Yeah.
Right. Of 2022. I already had 17 units. So literally 2 months after paying $25,000 to the mentor, I prepared myself for 2 months, acquired my first apartment complex. It was small, 17 units. By the end of that year, I had 150 doors under my name.
That's crazy.
So really, in 6 months, I had 150 doors for a $25,000 investment. Dang. And it was not because that $25,000 gave me all the doors, but he gave me all the strategies and all the connections that I needed to accelerate my success.
So ultimately, that's how you went from 0 to 24 million.
0 to 24 million in 6 months, really.
Never would have happened without the right mentorship.
It was it was going to take longer.
Way longer.
It was going to take way longer.
Got you.
Yes. It was.
So when you went into your first multifamily deal, what did you need?
Need money.
Money.
Yeah, I needed money. And I needed a good lender that understood my strategy.
So like I've been talking about, for transformation, somebody who's watching this, looking up to you at this moment, how much money did you need? What was the first property? Let's break that down.
The first property is called Fwelo West. So my last name is Fwelo.
Yeah.
And the property is on the west side of Atlanta. So I called the property Fwelo West Apartments. So it was a 17 unit. It is a 17 units apartment community. So I needed $2 million. The purchase price was $2 million. The after repair value of the property is $3 million. So you have $1 million of equity right there on the property. And
so wait, the property cost $2 million.
$2 million to buy, but it's valued at $3 million.
So you didn't have to put in another $3 million.
No.
Okay.
The real value of the property is $3 million, but I'm getting it at $2 million.
Got you.
And then one more thing I got to tell you now before I even tell you exactly what I needed is that in multifamily, the value of the property is based on the income, the net operating income.
Versus residential, it's like the actual property.
You look at comps to a certain extent in multifamily, but it's heavily based on the income, right?
That's what makes it commercial.
Yes, but in commercial, well, in technical terms, commercial is going to be more like here where we are.
Yeah.
You got all these businesses. So,
but the multifamilies on LoopNet are always under commercial.
It is a commercial, but
I see what you're saying though.
Commercial is residential commercial.
Right.
Right, because people live there. So, but it's based on the income. So the deals are underwritten like a commercial real estate deal based on the income, just like in this plaza here or any office building, same way. So that's the benefit of it, right?
Right.
So I'm telling you right now that the property is $3 million property based on the income at the time.
Right.
So as a good operator, after 2 years or 3 years, I can bring that property from being a $3 million property to a $5 million property. But my entry in the deal was only at $2 million, right? But I can exit at $5 million. You understand what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
And it's all based on how high I can bring the rents.
Yeah.
And how high my net operating income can be, which is going to be gross income minus, all the expenses. So as long as I can keep my expenses low and I can increase rent over time and I can maintain the property in pretty good shape, it's very doable that over 2 years you can, achieve an additional $2 million equity on the property.
And what I love too is like, especially hearing the name Fwelo West, you're literally building generational wealth.
Yes, I'm putting my name on family. I'm putting my family names on buildings.
Like real. Your 2 kids can collect rent checks.
That's the goal. Like I want them to collect rent checks. My son is 6, my daughter is 5. By the time they're my age or even much younger, by the time they're in college, collecting paid off properties, rents really.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, the property that I was in for my last warehouse, it was, of course, they weren't African American. So you being that is wow, just hearing you're doing the same thing. I was so amazed by, he was like, my grandfather bought this building in the 50s before Midtown in Atlanta was anything. He bought it for $50,000, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
And then his son, so this is great granddad, his son, he's like, all he did was collect rent checks his whole life. And then he passed it down to the son or whatever. And the son had his own like tax accounting business. But basically, he's good because they have all these properties. And to see that you're able to do that and are doing that's amazing.
Oh, that's the goal, yeah.
Yeah. So like, how did you get to the point where it's like now someone's listening and I don't want them to feel like they can't do it? You said the property was $2 million.
So my first deal was $2 million.
How do you get the money to do that?
So I raised private money.
Okay.
So like I needed about somewhere around $300,000 to do the deal. So $2 million
because of they just need the percent, 20%,
like a down payment. At the
Gotcha.
time it was like 15% down plus, it was 15% down lender plus some fees. So roughly $300,000 to really do the deal. And I have 2 friends of mine that were already investing with me in single family. So they used to give me money to flip for them on single families. I just told them, I was like, hey, look, I'm about to do something bigger. Instead of the single family, let's put it on a commercial building. Yeah. I was like, and then we set it up as a bridge loan. So it's like, you give me a loan to put a down payment. And when I refi the property, I pay you guys out plus interest.
Gotcha.
So I retain 100% equity of the deal, but I pay you guys interest or return on your capital.
So they're looking at it not to be building owners. They're just like, I'm going to get way more than the market's going to give me for this type of investment. So that's what makes sense.
And then, clearly they see that I'm a good operator, a good businessman. So they trust that I'm going to, give them their money back. So that kind of stuff.
And is it pretty much safe for them because they're on the title anyways?
So they not own the title, but their money is the building is a collateral for their money.
Got you.
So they can have a claim on the building if I don't pay them.
Like put a lien against it.
So they can put a lien against it. I mean,
so if you ever sell it, they're getting paid.
They're getting paid.
So it's super safe for them.
It's safe. The money is in the bricks, really.
Got you.
The money is there.
So then how do you go from, I got my first multifamily apartment complex, Fwelo West, to being able to scale so fast? You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, obviously you didn't make all your money that quick back. Yes. So how do you scale that fast to do the other stuff?
So again, it's the Bolden list, just being in the, surrounded by people like Ed Bolden that dude has like 600 plus units and he's going for 1,000. He's
not even 30 yet, is he?
No, he's in his 30s, 35 maybe.
35, yes. 36, yeah.
So like,
under 40.
Actually 35.
Wow.
He's
yeah,
35.
40 under 40.
I hope I
Ed
did
Bolden.
Age right. So yeah, so when you're in a room full of people like, Bolden, you got Will, you got Marquise, Allen, Ari. I mean, you have people you exposed to like so much information and so much access. I mean, and then you close your first deal, you just get addictive, man. Like you just want to do more, you know? And then, so I kind of had to prove myself, close that first deal. And my mentor looked at me like, okay, you really want it. So let's try on a second one. Like, hey, I got another opportunity. So every time you would bring an opportunity and you share in the group chat, I would be like, look, I'll take you down.
Where was you getting was the money coming from the wholesaling business to keep?
It would be a mixture of like a wholesale business, or let's say I'm doing a couple flips. I have a couple projects, but always raising capital, private capital. Like I would always be like, hey, look, I have an opportunity here. I need another $1 million. I make some phone calls. We got money. So I just always raise private capital, Is
it scary raising private capital from people? I guess this is the difference. Real estate, and I want you to tear down my objection. In real estate, it's like the building's there, right? So then it's like, it's not like these partners are like in everyday operations because it's just an investment versus like a normal business, hair salon, cannabis, whatever. You got to really deal with these people every day.
Yes.
So it's probably not as scary taking the money from these private lenders.
You're taking money for a tangible asset.
Got you.
You taking money for a tangible asset. And I mean, clearly real estate is more sexiest asset out there. I mean, it's attractive. Like when you talk real estate to anybody, they want to put their money in there. And it makes sense from a security perspective and even from tax. I mean, you can even go deeper, like tax benefits. And it just makes sense to a lot of people to invest in real estate, So it is not easy, however. It is challenging. But you're just gonna have to work hard for it. Like I'm always raising money. Actually, it's funny because I was talking to Ratik the other day. I was like, yeah, man, me and Will were laughing about the fact that you're always raising money. I was like, yeah, dude, like I have to do it. Yeah. If I have to scale my multifamily, I need to always raise capital.
Yeah, always raise capital.
Because it's two things, right? Is the reason why I'm always, my posture is always to raise capital is because I know Bolden is about to throw me another deal soon. Because he has so much access.
So that's why like Grant Cardone's always raising capital.
Because he has access to all the brokers. I mean, this guy, like they send him deals every day. Yeah. Like if you get on the Bolden's list group chat right now, I mean, we talk about deals. Like there's always a new deal. Yeah. To talk about. So I would just hate to look at all these deals and I can't buy them because I have no money. Yeah. So I want to be prepared to always know who got the money. So as soon as I see a deal and I think it makes sense to my investing strategy, I want to be able to buy it.
And then getting the investors who invest in you personally out, they win. So it's like a win-win. They get their return.
They get their return and I return the equity. So my investing
strategy. Because you want to have the equity forever, right?
Yes. My investing strategy is to Fwelo Capital is a family investing firm. Like it's my family business. Right? So clearly we can scale it to open it up to other shareholders. But right now, at least for now, short term, our investing strategy is to retain 100% equity because we may leverage it eventually in the future. I don't want to have too many people in bed with me right now. You know? So the only option that I'm offering investors right now is to come in as partners for a 24-month hold period, right?
Got you.
So you come in with your money and I give you a return over the next 24 months.
Is that how long it takes to refinance? Is that why it's 24?
On average, it takes about 24 months to refinance. Sometimes sooner, but, just to be on the safe side, So 24 months to refinance, and that's when I'm able to pay you out your initial principal and your interest. And then we can always negotiate the payouts. Instead of 24 months, we can always see, okay, you want to get it quarterly. We can do that, right? But the goal is after 24 months.
If you do it quarterly, since you don't have the refinance, does that hit your pockets?
So it depends on the cash flow. If I have enough cash flow, we can do it.
Okay.
So it all depends on the cash flow. Like my 64 unit deal that I'm buying, I'm closing in the end of this month, has enough cash flow for that kind of stuff.
64 units.
Yes. It's gonna be, the name is gonna be Fwelo South because that one is on the south.
Okay, so that's over here.
Yeah, it's on this side of town. So
got you.
That one I'm open to seeing. I think I made a few offers like this to some investors in the deal where they can make some kind of quarterly payments. But after 24 months, they're out. And we want to retain 100% equity and ownership of the deals because we may want to leverage them. And most importantly, I want to pass down free and clear assets to my kids.
Yeah.
So
the goal is, because that was going to be my next question, right? The goal is those assets to be free and clear, because one time what I had heard, and I might have been talking to you, right, and just heard it wrong. I thought the goal was never to truly own the property because of the refinancing is so good. Can you break that down?
Well, it depends. There are certain, look, it's hard. Let me just be honest with you. It's hard to take debt out of real estate. Yeah. It's hard. Okay. Not because it's impossible, but it's just that it's so attractive to always have debt because, it's just you want to leverage them because it's so much money. Yeah. To just access the debt and buy more deals. But if you think 30, 50 years later, you may want to have some free and clear properties. Right. So that way there's no debt on them. Just to kind of take the burden off of your family, Yeah. Because you don't know, certain people may not be as responsible as you are, a good operator as myself or whoever is going to be in place. So I'm interested in the idea to have free and clear properties plus some properties with debt. Gotcha. So again, what I'm telling you is hard because I can look at a property right now, free and clear, that's valued at $5 million. Trust me, knowing myself, I'm going to want to put debt on the property to get at least $3 million liquid to go do some more deals.
So let's talk about that. And that's crazy as well. Like for generational wealth, right? And putting your family in a good place. You have all of these properties. If you ever somehow got down bad, you could just kind of pull.
Yeah, you can pull cash out, sell.
And you're right back up.
Yeah, you're right back up.
Amazing.
I'm sitting on easily I got to really look at my P&L, but it's maybe $7 to $10 million, equity, just equity. Yes. Wow. Yeah. That I can, refinance. Every time I buy a deal, right? Here's a beautiful thing about every time, here's a beautiful thing about commercial real estate. Every time you see me closing on the deal, I'm securing the next 10 years, 20 years of my family, my financial, financial studies for my family. So I'm literally, every time I buy a deal, I'm securing my family for the next decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, but in short term, every time I sign the dotted line, I just secured another $2 to $5 million for myself coming over the next 2 to
That's
3
crazy.
years.
So in 10 years, you're just going to be crazy up.
Yeah. When you start refining all this property, you refinance this, you refinance that. You're just taking millions of dollars.
That's awesome, bro.
And you still got the cash flow for
And before we get to the last part, what's the hardest part about wholesaling? The hardest part about multifamily?
The hardest part about wholesaling is just kind of dealing with people's emotion, essentially, like sellers following up and that kind of stuff, because sometimes you have a deal and it's you have to follow up because again, you're dealing with people. It's a situational business. Somebody may agree to sell today, but you may have to still follow up with them for, maybe a month for them to sign and finally close with you. On the flip side, what's hard about multifamily is, executing, operating the asset, because again, you have 50 people paying your rent every month. You have 50 doors.
What about the maintenance and the management?
I was going to get there. I was you have 50 people paying your rent every month, and you have 10 people any given time that may request to repair something in the property. You're just going to have to be on point. And then 50 doors is very small in the commercial space. I know you're pretty impressed when I tell you 64 units, 80 units. It's still small.
Because when you think of those like apartment complex, like Camden and stuff,
they
it's
got like 500 unit, 300 unit. That's really the kind of units that we're looking to get into.
Yeah.
That's why I'm retaining 100% of the equity that I have on the deals right now, is because the goal is not to stay in the C class, because right now we're operating in C class properties, right?
Mm-hmm. Break down what C class is.
So C class is, that's a good question. So like the A classes would be, for example, like properties but it's all location based, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the A classes would be like a nicer neighborhood. B class would be in like also nice neighborhood, but just properties that may need more attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then C class would be more properties like in the hood, for example. Like these are C class. And then you have the D class, even worse, neighborhood, that kind of stuff. So so we in the C class assets, which means we in the hood, but not in a rough hood. We try to be in like transitioning neighborhood that are actually up and coming.
Yeah.
Right.
That maybe in 10 years may be the spot.
Like you buy now, you thank yourself in 5 years. That kind of places, right? Because at the end of the day, people are renting in those neighborhoods. So in our community, people are paying rent. People work there. People live there. So at the end of the day, they're good assets.
Yeah.
They just happen to be they're not in affluent neighborhoods, right? So we in that space. So we're buying assets in those neighborhoods. And the goal is essentially to, although we may still own those, the goal is to buy A-class buildings and B-class buildings. So I like to retain all the equity in my deals, because I want to have, let's say, 1,000 C-class units, and maybe I'm going to sell 400 of those so I can buy, a skyscraper, in bucket. It's easier to leverage.
On those deals, there's tons of people involved, isn't it? Like investors.
Yes. I mean, you could do that, or you can use the same business model that we have. Yeah. Which take your time. Like for me, I'm taking my time in the C-class space. I want to just have as many doors as possible. And I'm now going to just start leveraging my doors to get into better space.
Got you.
Because at the end of the day, bro, like it's not about how many units are under your company or whether it's A class or B class. It's all about how much money are you really making. Yeah. Like it's a lot of these big funds that are buying like
huge complexes,
but then I have maybe a 30 unit somewhere and I'm making more money than you that have, you probably have, 150 doors in one place, and I may be netting more out of my 50 doors than you at 150, because you have to splitting the equity with too many people. You know what I'm saying? Facts. So these funds, they're doing management fees and all that good stuff. I mean, you really have to scale to like Camden and Grant Cardone. Like you gotta go to billions of dollars to really make good money.
Got you. So I want to transition to and just talk about the fun part of when you start just making good money, right? And then you can take that money and invest it into other things. So I wanted to see like what was on your shirt right now.
Yeah, that's a shout out to my Rich and Fit family.
Rich and Fit. So explain since now you're able to, it's not your core business is real estate, but I can take that money from real estate and start putting into other investments. And you're opening up Rich and Fit Gym. Yes. So could you explain like what would make you be like, let me jump over here and try something different?
Yes. At first it started like a fun project, right? Yeah. Like clearly I was working on with my boy Timmy, and I was just like, yo, I love the energy. Like I feel like dude deserves his own. He deserves his own space. Yeah. Right? He was just something.
You saw something in him.
I just saw something in him. I was like, man, I got to do something, right?
Right.
But I didn't have the right, partner at the time. Yeah. Like, at least I didn't think of the right partner. I mean, they were all around, but I just didn't think about who do I really go to discuss this, right? Right. And I told Timmy we'll make it happen. And one day I'm working on with Will. And I just, give him the proposal, and he was, Will is he's rich
liquid.
As fuck. He's super liquid.
Right.
And Will was like, yo, dude, let's go half, let's do it, And it's funny because like I even told Will, I was like, hey, look, I'm down to take on more investors if you're not too sure. He was like, dude, that's too small, man. Let's do it. Just you and I, let's do it, right? So I was like, all right, let's roll. Let's just put the money. Right? I was like, I like to hear that, That's why I love Will, man. He's pretty fluid and pretty flexible when it comes to business. Yeah. So we had that set up, me and Will. We created our partnership, and we got Timmy on board. We gave him his cut of the ownership, right? So we all partners now, and it was fun at first, but when we get into business, you realize now the opportunity in the industry. So Rich and Fit is really a fitness, like we a fitness industry marketing company. Yeah. Right. So we operating a fitness training facility. Currently, we have one location. We're gonna have multiple locations. So we're gonna be operating fitness training facilities, and then we're gonna be managing the fitness, influencers in the, in the industry as well. So our goal is to really kind of change the way, because I mean, to be honest, like I've seen a lot of trainers that are broke.
Yeah.
Even celebrity trainers that just don't make money. And to me, it's just going to bother me. Like, I'm like,
what's wrong? What's going on?
What's going on in this space?
You know what it is though, right?
I know. They spend too much time in the gym. Like, I don't know.
And it's not scalable because they're that one person.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, I'd rather them do what they love, but I need people, they need to have the right team behind them to show them the money in what they're doing. So
Got you.
That's what Reach and Fit is. Reach and Fit is it's going to help manage those talents.
Got you. So not only are you going to come in for the boot camp gyms, but it's like, how do we show the trainers how not to just be fit, but how to be rich and fit?
Rich and fit as well. And then it's not just for the trainers, it's also for the people, So we really want to bridge the wealth and the health.
Got you.
We want to bridge them and make sure that people clearly, your health is really your wealth, right? Yeah. We want to make sure that people spending time taking care of their bodies, which we all like in the same, we all in a routine, even myself. Like I'm going crazy in the gym right now, right?
Right.
But clearly I'm still running my business. I'm still making sure that I'm getting money. You know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that people can understand that you can do both.
Where's the gym going to be located?
So the first location is in Chamblee, Georgia. So,
okay.
So nice. Great location, a lot of parking space. I mean, it's pretty beautiful. It's pretty inside.
Got you.
So we're opening pretty soon, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We're supposed to open already like now, but
right.
got a few delays here and there. So
and it's going to be more like class-oriented boot camp?
So it's going to be more boot camp, class-oriented. It's going to be like, of course, there's going to be one-on-one trainings as well, but we want to make it more like class-oriented.
Got you.
Yeah.
And what would make someone like me say, I want to go to here versus LA Fitness or something?
So here's the thing, man. Like the LA Fitnesses and the Lifetimes, these are like big, complexes, right?
Right.
So I'm not saying that we're trying to take you away from there.
Yeah, you're trying to making an addition.
Yeah, we're making an addition to that. We're supporting the industry. So if you already want to work out, we come here as a support to you. Yeah. And honestly, it's going to be more fun to work out at Rich and Fit. Yeah. Because you got all the connections, you got the trainers, you got the energy. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what are you working out for? You just say that you go to the gym, or you really want to see results. Right. So if you want to see results, you're going to have to go to where you're going to get the results, right? Yeah. Or you can just stay Lifetime or, what you call it, LA Fitness and just...
I mean, the good thing is when we talk about addition, it's like my wife goes to LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, but then she also has like her class-oriented gym. But the biggest thing that I'm hearing too is just like, all right, y'all, anybody listen, let's think about it this way. Rich and Fit, right? It's not only about fitness. You hear it in the name, Rich and Fit. Yes. So it's also the environment that you guys are creating. Because if you say your health is your wealth, right? Imagine also working out in the right rooms. Yes. That's also what I believe Rich and Fit is going to do.
That's what it is. I mean, look, in Rich and Fit, we have a lot of people that are like, 6, 7 figures.
Top 1%.
Like 9 figures earners. Like, these are people that are around. Like
so why wouldn't you want to be in that room?
So you just want to be around there. You want to be around people like that. You want to work out, get fit, and then rub shoulders with people that can put you onto the next big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to be around that environment.
And what's crazy too is to just show that that's the true synergy with Rich and Fit is the fact that that's your experience. It's like you found your partner working out. Yes. Like you were working out with Will. Yes. You brought the idea to him, and next thing you know, he cuts the check and it's tangible.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like I've known Will since 2018. Like essentially me and him, we kind of like started like entrepreneur journey around the same time. Yeah. He was in e-com, always been doing real estate. Yeah. And when I met him, I was like, dude, when I finally met him again, around 2020, because I think, he went on 2 years building his e-com business, and I was doing my real estate stuff. And I met him again in 2020, and we started getting closer around the time. Yeah. In 2020, we started, getting more closer and closer. And I already knew, I like the kid. I know he's smart. I know he's going somewhere, right? And so when we worked out one time, we were working out with Timmy, and I just went to him. I was like, dude, what do you think about this? Look, I got half the money, but I just need a partner, and I'll come with the other half. And he cut the check, no question asked. Literally,
liquid will.
He cut the check, no question asked, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And I was able to move fast because I had that kind of partner, Yeah. That's another thing too. So the idea of Rich and Fit was there, but it was hard for me to execute because I didn't have the right partner that would allow me,
and all that stuff.
The right team that would allow me to move fast. So when
Gotcha.
Will came on board, and as liquid as he is, it made it easy for me as well to be more confident to put in my money because I knew I had a partner. So if we're going to have to go half, I know he got the other half. It's literally no question asked.
Key thing is finding the right partner.
The right partner. Like, you just know, like, hey, man, we're about to spend 100. I got 50. Will got 50. Like, it's literally in 2 seconds, you see it in the bank. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
I got 100. He got 100. Like, it's easy, right?
We're doing the same day wires too.
Like, he's doing same day wires. Sometimes I have to kind of be behind his ass.
Yeah.
Know? But like, but it's like, things are moving fast, right? And I was able to get an agent on board. Literally, look, me and Will talked in the gym. I think we worked out on a Wednesday. Yeah. On Thursday, I had an agent already out looking. And even Will was like, dude, you're moving fast. I was like, dude, you give me the green lights. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So on Thursday, I already had an agent out. We got the location early the following week. I was able to like get the property going, and I mean, it was pretty fast. Yeah. When the money is there, it's like, it's easy to move.
It's easy to move. That's definitely true. Hey, when the money is there, it's easy to move. Facts. That's a bar. That was a bar for sure. So, hey, I'm going to put all the information down below for Rich and Fit so you guys can get there or whatever. But tell them, because, this is basically about real estate. And obviously, this guy's proven himself from residential, multifamily, and to even just leasing, you know what I'm saying, with this new business with Rich and Fit. So where can people learn more? Like, tell us about your training, how they can get involved and just really tap in with you.
So like, IG is always, my favorite channel. You want to follow me on Instagram. It's B as in blessed, F as in France, WELO. So it's B Fwelo. Beni is my first name, last name Fwelo. So follow me on Instagram. I mean, that's really where you can find me. I host a free workshop every Sunday where I teach folks how to get started in real estate. A lot of people, again, think that you need a lot of money to get into real estate, right? But I always tell people, look, you can start small. Yeah. There are ways you can turn $2,000 into $40,000. There are ways that if you're the kind of guy that only have $5,000 and you think that $5,000 is not enough to get into real estate, yes, it's enough. Yeah. You can use the $5,000. I can teach you how you can set up the right system, and then you can flip it into $50,000, if not $100,000, right? So again, you can absolutely start small. So I host a training where I teach you exactly what you need to do with your money, right, to invest in real estate. And real estate is the safest place. It's the safest industry really you want to invest in, because your money is really in the building, right? So again, you just get on my IG, click the link on my bio, save your seat, to join my free workshop. And or you can just simply go to thewholesalers.com and you can, save a seat and join my free training.
Dope. Yeah. Well, y'all, that's my guy, Beni Fwelo. I hope you guys learned a lot when it comes down to business, operations, real estate, just debt and all of that. So make sure you guys tap in with him, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this, and we'll see y'all on the next episode.
All right, we out. Peace out.